StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how winners think. This is a start of a mini series we're going to have here on the Work on Your Game Masterclass, which I'll explain in a moment. First of all, two things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point, start your day or your week, respectively. Just be part of my texting community, free to join. My number 305-384-6894. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where you get to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach. If you love the game that is being shared with you here on this show, then imagine when we start coming up with complete strategies and systems for you to apply this personally to your personal specific situation for your personal life and your professional life. That's what happens at Work on Your Game University, and you have me as your direct coach during that entire process. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, link down below in the description. Now, into the topic here today, which again is how winners think. This is going to be a 6-part series. So this episode and 5 more after this one. And I'm assuming that most of you who listen to this show are people who are either you are already winning, you want to win, or you have won in the past and you want to win. Maybe you just want to step up your win. You want to win more than you already are. That's a good thing because that's who I'm making this for. So what we're going to do in this series, starting today, is talk about the mindset of a winner, because life itself is a game. That's the reason why we call it Work on Your Game. And since we're in a game, you need to work on your game so you are best positioned to succeed in that game. And succeeding in a game means winning. All right, the purpose of playing a game is because there is a way to win, there's a way to not win. You want to call that losing, coming in second, whatever you want to call it, because maybe in the Olympics, for example, you may not come in first, but you still win something. So most of you want to win, okay? And we're going to talk about the mindset of a winner because life's a game and you want to best position yourself to finish as strongly as possible in whatever game you're going to be involved in. So let's get into it. Topic today is how winners think, and this is the beginning of what will be a 6-part series. Point number 1, I'm getting in the game with intentions of creating a successful outcome that is clearly defined. Now remember what the topic is, how winners think. So I'm giving you the mindset of a person who is winning. Let me tell you again, the first one. I'm getting in this game with intentions of creating a successful outcome that is clearly defined. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, I was listening to, I believe I was reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of the things that he mentioned it was a little anecdote that he shared in the book, was that there was some guy who was a salesperson, and the salesperson's process that they followed every day was they would have 120 paper clips in one jar. Then they have another jar next to it that was empty. And every time the salesperson made a call, no matter how it went, he moved one of the paper clips to the empty jar, and he finished working when he moved all 120 paper clips from the full jar to the empty jar. He only moved them when he made a phone call. The whole point was he needed to make 120 calls every single day. That is a clearly defined successful outcome. Now, I'm assuming that this guy, based on what he knows about his business and his process and his prospects, that if he makes 120 calls a day, eventually that will average out to him closing enough sales that he's hitting his quotas, making his money, and hitting his numbers, and everybody can live happily ever after. The point is a clearly defined goal. What is your clearly defined goal? Understand, folks, you cannot win if you do not have a goal to score on. What is the goal you need to score on? If I go outside tomorrow and run, I know that I want to run 6 miles. I know exactly how far I got to run. I know exactly which streets to go down and where to turn and when to go in which direction. And I know that when I finish, I've gone a certain distance, and I know I want to do it within a certain time frame. That's a clearly defined goal. If you're going to be a winner, folks, you need to know what winning means down to the detail. If you're going to be a winner, you must define what winning means down to the detail. In other words, how would you know that the game is over and you won? How would you know? Good thing about the world of sports, where I come from, and they found serves as the foundation of where the material of Work on Your Game comes from, is that the win is clearly defined for everyone participating when you play a sport. In sports, the win is clearly defined because usually we have a scoreboard determining the outcome. And even if we don't have a scoreboard, you have judges. Let's say, for example, in boxing, if a fight goes a distance, or figure skating or gymnastics, you have judges who tell you what the score is, but we know that they're the ones who are going to make the score. It's not like sometimes the judges decide and sometimes they don't decide. We know exactly what it is. We know in boxing that if someone gets knocked out or the ref has to stop the fight, then we know who won. And if it goes to the scorecards, then we know who we're looking to tell us what scores they had. It's not like we pick 3 random people out of the crowd. It's 3 judges who were assigned, and we know who they are before the competition even begins. So the good thing about sports is that the win, whatever it may be, is clearly defined for everyone participating, and even for the spectators to know, how do we know who won? You go to a football game, there's a scoreboard with a clock, tells you how much time is left in the game, and all you have to do is compare the number of one team to the other team. Whoever has more points when the end of the fourth quarter is reached, they're the winner of the game. And if it needs to go to overtime, there are rules for that. So if you are not playing a sport, you must clearly define what winning is. Now, understand there are no right or wrong answers, but there must be an answer. The challenge for many people is that they simply don't have an answer. And this is the reason why you can't win. Again, without a goal, you can't score. So what exactly is winning, and how do you define it? Point number 2. Topic, once again, here today is the first part of our ongoing series of how winners think. Number 2, being that I am planning to win, I do my homework and prepare myself before the situation begins. Again, remember that these points I'm giving you, I'm telling you the mindset of a winner. This is the way a winner thinks. Being that I am planning to win, I do my homework and prepare myself to win before the situation begins. The hallmark of the professional, ladies and gentlemen, is what? Discipline and preparation. You want to know if someone's a professional, just note how disciplined they are when it comes to preparing for a task. True professionals are highly disciplined in preparing for whatever they're going to do. There's a book by author by the name of Michael, is either Lehi or Leahy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He wrote a book called When Nothing Else Matters. And this book was about, all of you know Michael Jordan. This was the 2 years that Michael Jordan spent playing for the Washington Wizards when he came back after his second retirement. When he last played for the Chicago Bulls, he made that big shot in 1998 against the Utah Jazz. Then he was gone for a couple of years and he came back and played for the Washington Wizards for 2 years. Michael Leahy, or Lehi, he wrote a book about that experience of what Michael Jordan was doing. And in one section of the book, Leahy talks about, I'll just call him Leahy so I don't keep saying, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he talks about how before the game, Michael Jordan, well, one of the themes of the book was how Michael Jordan was kind of setting a standard for the players on the Wizards. Because one of the reasons that Jordan came back to play for the Washington Wizards is because he had at that point joined the Wizards front office. He was like a general manager, or one of the front office decision makers, but he was growing more and more frustrated with the way that the players were playing, and they seemed to not be bringing the same professionalism to the game that he would have brought to the game. And being that he still had a little bit of gas left in the tank, or at least he thought he did, Jordan decided to leave the front office and become a player again, and that's why he came back to the Wizards. And one of the things that he wanted to do was set a standard and help set an example to the other players of how to show up every day by him doing it himself. And one of the things that Leahy talks about in the book is how before the game, Michael Jordan had a warm-up routine, a warm-up process, and the author could see and feel how focused and locked in Michael Jordan got before the games and preparing for the competition that he was about to be in. And he does a whole section on this, just talking about it, how just watching him prepare just kind of, it made you think about yourself and how you needed to prepare, because he just seemed very, very locked in and determined before every game. And he juxtaposed that with many of his teammates, Jordan's teammates on the Wizards. The author juxtaposed that is the Jordan teammates on the Wizards, how they sometimes would just goof around and play around and not really be getting too locked in or serious about the game before the game. And we all know who Michael Jordan is. And the point here is, I'm just emphasizing this point that I'm making here in point number 2, is that anyone who is going to win consistently prepares consistently. And the hallmark of a pro, whether they're winning or not, is that they're always prepared. And being that you're expecting to win, you prepare to win by doing the work ahead of time that is necessary to best position you for that victory. If your goal is to make a whole bunch of sales this month, then you got to better prepare yourself. You have to best prepare yourself to make those sales, which means you probably need the prospects. You probably have to have your contacts lined up. You probably need your follow-ups lined up. You probably need some type of sequence or a system or a process by which you follow up with people, by which you close your sales. You got to make sure you got ink pens so people can sign the contracts. Whatever it is that people are going to have to do, you are giving them the things that they need, and giving yourself rather the things that you need so that you can give everybody else what they need so that you can hit your goals. With this in mind, What is the homework that someone in your position needs to do? If you plan on winning, what homework needs to be done? For example, just today I got an email that I was not expecting. It was from I don't even know how I got on these people's email list, but there's a 10K race. And those of you who have been following this show for some time, you know that I like to run in 10K races. I sat out a couple of them at the end of last year because I was having some lower leg issues. But this year I am planning to get back by the time you hear this race will have already happened. But in the fall season, a lot of the races that happen down here, like 10K races, either happen in the spring. Actually, they happen in the winter, the spring, and then the fall, but not usually in the summer because I guess it's too hot. There's no races like May, June, July, August is good luck finding a 10K race in South Florida. It's too hot. But anyway, around October, November, December, there's plenty of races to run. So I just got an email that exactly 2 weeks from, I'm trying to think, exactly 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now, there's a 10K race that I didn't even know about and therefore was not planning to run in. But now that I saw it, I said, okay, maybe I will run in this race. I'll probably am going to run in it. I'm not in game shape yet, but maybe in 2 weeks I'll be close enough to game shape that I can be competitive in this race. The point being, I'm bringing that up to say, knowing that this race is coming up in 2 weeks, now I have a closer target because the first race I was actually thinking about getting in is 2 weeks after that. It's like a month away from when I'm recording this. But now, if my timeline gets moved up to 2 weeks, then that means I got to make sure I'm getting in game shape in 2 weeks, or at least as close as I can get to game shape so I can go in there and perform. So the question for you is, what homework do you need to do, being that you want to win in your particular position? If you have the answer and you know what the homework is, then you need to start planning and or start executing on that homework. If you do not know what the homework is, your job right now, your number one order of business is to go find out what the homework is and start doing it. If you know what it is, start doing it. If you don't know what it is, go find out, then start doing it. If you want to win a marathon, for example, let's say win a marathon, you don't even want to finish, you just want to win. You probably need to go outside and run a few times a week. If you want to finish the marathon, you probably need to go outside and run a few times a week. If you want to build a successful business, you probably need a product or a service to offer and a market to offer it to. Because if you don't have a product or service to sell, then you can't have a successful business. Even if it ain't your product, you got to have a product to sell. You can go sell cars. All right? It's not your car, but you can make money off it because you're the salesperson. All right? You got to have a product or service to offer. You're going to make money doing business. You need to figure out how to get the word out about what you have. That's part of the marketing. This is all part of doing your homework. And understand that winners do their homework. At the professional level, one of the most important things winners do is homework because they spend more time doing homework, i.e. preparing to perform, than they spend actually performing. When I was a professional athlete, I would have players ask me this often to the point that I came up with an explanation of it that I could use over and over again. I had a 10-to-1 formula, meaning I did 10 practice sessions of training on my own on the court for every one game that I played in. And when I say every one game that I played in, I'm referring to playing a game of pickup basketball. I'm referring to playing in some local recreational league like the LA Fitness or the Equinox. I'm referring to some random straggler challenging me to a game of one-on-one while I'm in the middle of my workout. And I'm referring to professional level games. I had 10 practice sessions minimum for every one game that I played in. Now, you may be asking, well, Dre, what if you had a week where there was like 4 games that you had to play in 1 week? How did you practice 40 times that week? Well, maybe I didn't. But the week before that and the week after that, I might have been all practicing and no games. So overall, when you average it all out, I had a 10-to-1 practice to perform ratio. And high level performers spend much more time preparing than they do spend performing. As the saying goes, perfect prior preparation precludes perfect performance, or prior preparation precludes perfect performance, or prior preparation prevents poor performance. Either way, you're doing your homework up front. Winners do their homework. So the question for you is not whether or not you're doing the homework. First question is, what is the homework? And once you have an answer to that, then the question is, are you doing it or are you not? Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how winners think. Number 3, a winner thinks to themselves, I put myself in difficult situations because I understand that dealing with those difficult situations will make me stronger and better for future challenges or for dealing with future challenges. Part of your preparation for success, ladies and gentlemen, is putting yourself in challenging situations that, as long as they don't kill you, will make you grow, improve, and be smarter for the next challenge that you shall face. This is part of your preparation. This is part of homework. Part of the homework is you want your preparation to be harder even then what the performance is going to be like, so that when you face any challenge in the performance, it's easy compared to what you had to do in preparation. Speaking of Michael Jordan, if you saw the docu-series called The Last Dance that came out about 4 or 5 years ago, one of the things that Michael Jordan was famous for was being a really good practice performer. He's one of the best and hardest workers in practice, according to his coaches and teammates. He just showed up for practices and he would practice as if it was Game 7 of the championship. And when Michael was asked about this in the docu-series, he said, well, I used to want to push my teammates really hard in practice because I understood if I pushed them really hard in practice, then there was nothing that could happen in the game with the other teams that was harder than what they had already faced in dealing with me every day in practice. So basically, he was doing this as a way of basically overtraining his teammates for the games, because there was no opponent in basketball. At least I'm reasoning this out for Michael. No opponent in basketball that would be harder on his teammates than what Michael Jordan was on his teammates. Therefore, everybody else would be easy. The Detroit Pistons and New York Knicks and LA Lakers will be easy to face if you've already faced down dealing with Michael Jordan every day. That was his theory, his logic, the way that he explained it, not in so many words. And I think we can say that it pretty much worked, because Michael Jordan's teammates, none of them were as talented or as skilled as Michael Jordan himself, but in being the best version of themselves, with Michael's help, they were able to win championships. Because we all understand, even one amazing player, even one as good as Michael Jordan, is not enough to win a championship at the professional level. Now, Michael was playing at the Equinox or the LA Fitness. He could probably win the championship with a bunch of bums on his team. But in the NBA, the other players on the other teams are good enough that Michael alone would not be able to beat an entire team. So he needed his teammates to get better. And this is the process he came up with for helping them, making the situation harder on them in practice, so that when they got into games, it couldn't be nearly as bad as it had been dealing with him. So part of your preparation for success, folks, is that any situation that doesn't kill you makes you grow, improve, and get smarter and better for the next challenge you face. I'll give you another example. Floyd Mayweather. Most of you are familiar with Floyd. He is a champion boxer, now retired, who retired with an impeccable 50-0 boxing record. And regardless of your detailed opinion about Floyd, I think we all can agree he was a pretty damn good boxer. And one of the things that Floyd would do in his training was that he would spar. And sparring, for those of you not familiar with the term, sparring is just like practice fighting for any combat sport. So they're sparring in karate, they're sparring in taekwondo, they're sparring in MMA, they're sparring in boxing. It's just another word used for practice. It's like practice boxing, or in basketball, we would call it a scrimmage. And that's what they call in boxing, they call it sparring. So two guys just practicing boxing against each other, probably not hitting each other as hard as they possibly could. Sometimes they do, but not always. So anyway, when Floyd would spar in his training camps, here's what he would do. And not always, but this is one of the things he would do. He would spar for 18 consecutive minutes. Those of you who know boxing, you understand that a round in boxing, like you watch a boxing match on TV, each round is 3 minutes. And the longest fights they have these days are usually 12 rounds. So that's 3 minutes with 1 minute rest in between. So it's 36 minutes. And then you add the 1 minute rest. So the longest the fight can be is about 48 minutes. Now, Floyd would spar for 18 minutes straight, 6 rounds, 18 straight minutes, 6 straight rounds with no break in between. Now, think about that. And the way he would do it, actually, before I get to that, here's the way he would do it, because maybe Floyd is in good enough shape to spar for 18 minutes straight, at least once he got himself in shape to do so. The problem is, who else is capable of sparring against him for 18 minutes straight? Well, the answer is nobody. So here's what he would do. He would get a bunch of boxers in there all lined up. He would have one boxer come in and he would spar them for 3 minutes. Then the bell would ring and another boxer would come in to replace the last boxer, a fresh boxer, and he would start sparring with Floyd. Then after 3 minutes, the next one would come in at the bell. Then the next one, next one, next one. He would spar all 6 of them back to back to back with no breaks for himself. But each one of them only had to go three minutes with Floyd. And he would be fucking these guys up. Of course, Floyd is he's a championship fighter. The point being, he was preparing himself to spar for 18 minutes straight without stopping. So when he got in a boxing ring during a real fight and he only had to spar for 3 minutes, that was relatively easy. Point is, he trained himself for more than what was going to be expected of him. So when the expectation came, that was easy relative to what he had prepared himself for. All right, so this is one of the ways that you can do it. I'm not saying you have to do just that, but this is one of the ways that you can do it. This is a reason why any of you who's in sales and you interface directly with your prospects and hopefully turn them into clients and customers, one of the things that a lot of salespeople do is they will role play talking to a prospect, and they'll have the prospect throw up all their objections. Well, the price is too high, or I got to talk to my wife, or I got to talk to my CFO, or these payments are too much, or we're going to wait 6 months before we make a decision, or all the things that prospects can throw at you when you're trying to close a sale. You role play those with your colleagues so that you're ready to handle those complaints, objections, stalls, etc. when you get into a live conversation with the customer. The whole point is preparing yourself ahead of time before the situation occurs. A bodybuilder lifts heavy weights, and in breaking down the muscle fibers from those heavy weights makes his muscles stronger for the next time he lifts weights. Winners understand that to continually win, you must be continually challenged, which means you set yourself up for a challenge rather than waiting for the challenge to come and find you. This is part of the preparation. One of the things that, speaking of Michael Jordan, he would say all the time that he was always looking for a new challenge. So once he reached the top of the mountain and had won the championship, and everyone said, okay, Michael Jordan has clearly solidified himself as the best player in the world. Well, it's very difficult for people to keep winning when you get to that position and everyone is singing your praises and telling you how great you are. He had to mentally find ways to continually challenge himself, because it's not like the general public provided a challenge to him anymore. They did during the periods when they were saying, okay, well, we don't know who this guy is. Then they said, well, this guy's obviously very good. But then they said, obviously, this guy's the best player in the league, but he hasn't won a championship yet. Can he win a championship? So when he finally won a championship, now he basically silenced everybody. Now, how does he find the next challenge? This is one of the reasons why when I mention Michael Jordan, I talk about the mental stuff that he had to do to himself was more impressive than the physical stuff. Because once you reach the peak and everyone's already agreeing that you're the best, how do you keep yourself motivated enough and driven enough to keep trying to push yourself? Like, there's no external thing pushing you and saying that you're not the best. Everybody's saying you're the best. Usually people take their foot off the gas when everyone's telling them how great they are. I can see having motivation when people are telling you you're garbage, but when everyone's telling you you're great, what do you do then? He figured it out. That's the point. And again, this is all done in your preparation, folks. That said, let's recap. This is part one of our what will be an ongoing series on how winners think. Number one, I'm getting in the game with the intentions of creating a successful outcome that is clearly defined. In other words, you know what winning looks like. You know exactly what needs to happen in order for you to have won. Number two, being that I'm planning to win, I do my homework and prepare myself to win before the situation begins. Number one hallmark of a professional is discipline of preparation. You want to know if someone's a pro, look at how disciplined they are in preparing. And if you want to know if you're a pro, look at yourself. And number three, I put myself in difficult situations because I understand that dealing with them will make me stronger and better for dealing with future challenges. High-level people are looking for challenges. They do not wait for challenges to find them. They go and find their own challenges, or they create them if they can't find one. Why? Because it challenges them to improve, get better, and sharpen their sword. That said, tomorrow we're going to get into part two of this series. Make sure you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you can sign up to getting started working with me directly and having me as your direct coach, so we can start turning your situation into a clearly defined win, and we can start doing the preparation work to make sure you're ready before the situation occurs. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all